When the Manchester, Buxton, Matlock and Midland Junction Railway was built by the Midland Railway in 1863 to link Manchester with London, no one would have foresaw that this line would be obliterated in 1968 between Matlock and just shy of Buxton at Bakewell Mill. But today a new kind of popularity exists for part of this former railway line. 8.5 miles between Bakewell and Bakewell Mill is a popular attraction for walkers, cyclists and horse riders alike, and anybody just wanting to enjoy the outdoors. So in this series of videos I've come to walk the full 8.5 miles from Bakewell through to Bakewell Mill. There are often regular calls for this railway line to be reopened, at least in part, and I began my journey in part 1 at Bakewell railway station. This town can be very busy, especially on weekends and market days, and it has a beautiful remains of the railway station. I continue to pass on towards Hassop Station, beautiful cafe and cycle hire available, before finishing off at Great Longston Station, the most beautiful in my opinion along this route. So in part 2 we're going to approach and head into Headstone Tunnel, have a little look at that and talk about it too before we burst out and look at the main attraction of this section of railway, the beautiful Monsal Head Railway Viaduct. Absolutely stunning. So let's join me down on the track bed and we'll take a look at the Monsal Trail, the former Midland Railway. Hey everybody, welcome back to the former Midland Railway, now the Monsal Trail. I'm walking from Bakewell right through to Cheadale and the former Cheadale Halt, around about 8 miles. Nice little series this has turned into, and in part 2 we're going to go through the 533 yard long Headstone Tunnel, the longest one on the route and obviously the longest one that we can walk through. And going through there we're then going to take a look at the magnificent Headstone Viaduct. The railway bursts out of the tunnel over a 300 foot long beauty. It's around about 70 foot high at the highest point above the River Wye. So no further ado, I'm going to turn you around, and down here we've got Headstone Tunnel. In part 1 I finished at Great Longston Railway Station, that is just down here, and we're on the approach to Headstone Tunnel. We're going to have a look at that, walk straight through it before we burst out into the valley below, straight over Monsal Head Viaduct. Absolutely beautiful this is. I'd have loved to have seen this back in the day. We'll cross over it before dipping down below and then finishing up on top of the viaduct yet again, with plenty of archive footage and photographs to enjoy. In this map from around about 1900 or 1910, this gives us the trajectory of the tunnel. So we've got the cutting down here, look, on the eastern side coming away from Great Longston, and then the tunnel dives under the hillside. You can see it curving around before it bursts out across the valley of the River Wye and then onto the 5 arches of Monsal Head Viaduct before continuing its journey in the direction of Buxton. So the rock face, look at it, and there are little sections which have been supported by brick. There's 2 different kinds of brick there, look. I think they've had to repair the original support with an additional structural support underneath that one. Turn you around, there's some really tall ones, look. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. They've been there some time, haven't they? Quite a bit of water dripping off them too. So those stone pillars are all the way up, look, holding back that natural stone cutting, and on the other side as well, look. But this is lovely, isn't it? You can't quite see the sign, or you can. Headstone Tunnel just above that safety mesh and structure. let's get ourselves in this 533 foot beauty. I mean, it is sheer beauty and amazing engineering, isn't it, this? It is lit up, as you can see. I have been through here at night time before. That was quite something else. I'm taking the odd moment to speak to you when there's nobody about because the reverberations are rather loud. Quite a bit of repair work every now and again. Lots of refuges too, as you would expect. It's really, really brilliant that this is here for us. For horse riders, walkers, everybody that wants to come along, and even cyclists too. And the construction of this tunnel would have been by the means of shafts coming down from the surface down to the level of the tunnel, with navvies going through and digging and meeting up where these numerous little shafts were dotted along the route, and there'd probably be something known as sighting towers on top as well, where they could use them to check if it was going in a straight line. And to give you an idea of what this operation was like, here's an image from Forgotten Relics. You can see the land above the top, you can see those brown lines going down. They're the shafts which are built above ground level, going down, and then little sections of tunnels are then dug out and all met together. Typically, this is one from Monsal Tunnel near Merthyr Tydfil in South Wales. Generally, they can be called pepper pots or the top of the shafts, and down below they look like this. The same tunnel, Monsal in South Wales. There's the shaft beaming light down onto the track bed. I also mentioned the sighting towers often used in the construction of tunnels. There's a really good example. This is not for a railway tunnel. This is in fact the 7-mile long Rivlin Tunnel. Now this is a water tunnel which feeds the Rivlin reservoirs near Sheffield, coming from Ladybower Reservoir in the Peak District. So there's a couple of examples. You can see Ladybower just there, and typically engineers or sighters would stand on top of these and check that they were going in a straight line by looking for another one further up the valley. Plenty of ballast on the ground as well, look. It really is great how they've kept that there. It's on both sides. I'm assuming that's some kind of drainage that goes through on that concrete section on this side. And already we're almost out the other end. That seemed really, really quick. And here we are at the other end, Headstone Tunnel. Absolutely brilliant, wasn't it? We've got more of those to look forward to in this video series, but that is 533 yards long. It's only been open to the public for a decade or so, hasn't it? Next up, we've got the magnificent 300 foot long, 70 foot high Headstone Viaduct. Now the viaduct's name seems to be different depending on who you speak to. I've called it a number of these names in previous videos and even in this one. Headstone Viaduct, Monsal Head Viaduct, maybe even Monsal Dale Viaduct. A gentleman called John Ruskin thought it was a hideous blot on the landscape and wrote These words, "There was a rocky valley between Buxton and Bakewell once upon a time, divine as the Vale of Temp. You enterprised a railroad through the valley, you blasted its rocks away, heaped thousands of tons of shale into its lovely stream. The valley is gone, and the gods with it, and now every fall in Buxton can be in Bakewell in half an hour, and every fall in Bakewell at Buxton, which you think a lucrative process of exchange, you falls everywhere." This glorious viaduct has 5 arches, each with a 55-foot span. Now they come as quite negative words for something that many of us would now like to see used again, or many of us that miss what this was originally was, although we do enjoy it for what it is now. An overall length of 300 feet, and the track itself sat 74 feet above the River Wye. And in 1970 a Grade 2 listing was placed on the viaduct, and since 1980 the Monsal Trail footpath has been accommodated on the deck. So we've got Monsal Head all the way up there, we've got the river passing below us. That's Monsal Dale in that direction, and as you can see it is a extremely long way down, isn't it? I recently watched an episode of Mortimer and Whitehouse Gone Fishing, and there's an episode where they do fish in the River Wye down below, and occasionally you get flirting shots of this viaduct. So that was really nice seeing that, and it sort of gave me the inspiration to think, yeah, I need to come and do this. That's beautiful, isn't it? Some gorgeous, gorgeous colours, isn't there? You know what, it would have been really, really hard work constructing this, but I'm sure some of the navvies and the designers and engineers stood here in amazement, in awe of the beauty that surrounded them on their very own working location. Stood at the far end, look, you could just make out the tunnel portal and the curve of the viaduct. It is a blue brick on both sides with steel bars. Underneath, well, I'm going to pop down the side and see if we can have a little look at that now. It's getting right down to the bottom now, not far from the river bank. Kind of came down a different path so I could fly the drone around away from everybody and any potential animals that might be down here. It's lovely, isn't it? There's often a lot of talk about reopening this railway line, at least in part, and one of the ideas that often crops up is shared usage, half of it for the railway line and half of it as a shared path. And these photographs provide us with a really good example of how that might look. Track on one side and ballast on the other side. So if you ever wanted to imagine how that might shape up, if that is a situation that unfolds in the future, then this is it. I'll tell you what, it's not often that something gets built on an industrial scale, something as huge and colossal as this behind me, that actually naturally complements the scenery and the countryside that it sits in. It adds to it. You know, you get all manner of roads and factories and industrial places which, you know, they're a bit of a blotch on the landscape. But this, absolutely not. It's an absolute credit and huge, beautiful benefit to the area. It's stunning, isn't it? But look at it, that's gigantual. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 arches, absolutely humongous. Some kind of tensioning rods you might be able to make out in 1, 2, maybe the third one. Not in the first one though, quite possibly not in the 5th one along. This is lovely, isn't it? I don't believe I've actually been down below here before. It's great. It's worth the climb down, and it's going to be annoying climbing back up, but it is worth the climb down to come and, you know, just see this. It's pretty cool to be able to stand underneath it as well. It looks very, very narrow, doesn't it, when you stood below it? Like you wouldn't think it was the width of 2 standard gauge railway tracks and their trains, and the sides as well. It's a bit of a echo and reverberation as well. The water's looking really, really nice, isn't it? It just complements it. Honestly, it's like if you designed some countryside with something huge like this, then this would be the perfect design and outcome, wouldn't it? Right, time to get myself back up top, do a little bit of work, make myself up there, and that's where I shall see you next. It's just fantastic, isn't it? You just can't get enough of what this looks like, especially in autumnal colours. So next up along this route would be Monsal Station. There was also a lead and a spar mine just on the left as we head towards the station. But that's going to be in the very next video. So please like, subscribe, comment below to follow on this beautiful series around this gorgeous landscape. See you in the next one. Bye bye for now. As always, thank you very much for watching. You can follow me on all of the social medias popping up below, with Facebook being the main one for sources of all things of interest, latest news, where I'm going and where I have been. So thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you on there. Thank you also to all channel members. Coming up in the very next video, I shall be picking up the route from Monsal Head Viaduct where we've left off today, passing through Monsal Railway Station, and then we've got 2 tunnels, one after the other, Crestbrook Tunnel and also Lytton Tunnel, bit of an incline on those as well, going through the beautiful valley with the River Wye down to our sides before finishing off at Millersdale for the viaducts and also Millersdale Station.